I want you to look directly at this uncomfortable truth. Are you working harder every single day, earning more money, but that feeling of true freedom is still always just out of reach? Do you think you are building wealth, or are you actually just upgrading your cage to make it look more luxurious? Ask yourself this: if you stopped working tomorrow, how many months would your current life survive? 3 months? 6 months? Or just a few short weeks before everything collapses? Today, I'm not here to teach you how to get rich quick or tell you some cliché motivational stories. I want to share a practical system with you, built around one single number. The number that has allowed invisible millionaires to achieve absolute freedom while still wearing a $10 watch and a plain t-shirt from Amazon. That system is wrapped entirely inside one single number, $8,000. I have a friend. Let's call him Alex. Alex was a senior software engineer in Silicon Valley. He retired at the age of 38. Right now, Alex is living on a small island in Southeast Asia, riding a rented scooter, wearing $15 t-shirts. But when I asked Alex about his net worth before he quit his high-pressure job, the number he told me made me physically lean back in my chair. It was a multi-million-dollar nest egg, enough to keep him comfortable for 3 lifetimes. Alex told me something that completely rewired my financial brain. He said, "Every major financial decision in your life comes down to how you position the number $8,000 at each stage of your journey. If you understand exactly what this number represents, you will never be broke." You see, almost every financial guru out there tells you to build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. That advice sounds great in theory, but you and I both know it is completely useless when you are just starting out. Because when you hear 3 to 6 months of expenses, your brain instantly calculates a massive number, $20,000, $30,000. It feels so overwhelming that you get discouraged and end up saving nothing at all. So here is the strategy. Forget the percentages. Forget the months. Your first and only target is to hit exactly $8,000 in cash, parked in a high-yield savings account, and absolutely never touch it. Why $8,000? Because this is the exact boundary where the poverty premium disappears. In the modern economy, if you have less than $8,000 in liquid cash, you are constantly paying an invisible tax for being broke. You ignore a small warning light on your computer because you don't want to spend $200 on repairs. 3 months later, the machine completely dies, and you have to spend $2,000 on a brand new one. You can't afford to pay for your annual software subscription to get a 40% discount, so you are forced to pay a much higher monthly rate. You hit an unexpected emergency and have to swipe your credit card at a punishing 20 to 25% interest rate, turning a simple $500 bill into a mountain of debt. A cash buffer of $8,000 stops all of these silent losses. It shifts your mental state from desperate survival decisions to strategic ones. Look at Microsoft in its early days. Bill Gates was absolutely obsessed with keeping enough cash in the bank to run the company for an entire year, even if their revenue suddenly dropped to zero. That survival buffer is what kept Microsoft alive through the most brutal tech crises, while their competitors were forced to sell out or go bankrupt. Yet, why do 90% of people fail at this very first step? The biggest mistake is FOMO, the fear of missing out. They look at cash sitting idle in a savings account and panic about inflation. They get lured by promises of quick double-digit returns in stocks, crypto, or real estate. And so, they throw their very last dollar into risky investments. They forget that, without a solid foundation of cash, any minor life emergency will force them to sell their investments at a massive loss, right at the absolute bottom. That $8,000 buffer won't make you rich, but it guarantees you will never be poor. But this is where most of us go completely off track. It has to do with how you move and how you present yourself. Never spend more than $8,000 on a vehicle or personal tech devices until your actual invested assets, not your income, cross the $100,000 mark. So many people out there are driving $40,000 cars while their investment portfolio is barely sitting at $10,000. They own a depreciating liability that is worth 4 times their entire wealth-generating engine. Look at the lifestyle of truly wealthy people. Did you know that Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA, drove a 20-year-old Volvo? Or Mark Zuckerberg, who is worth tens of billions, yet constantly wears cheap, plain gray t-shirts? They understand that your value as a human being is not defined by assets that lose value every single second, but by assets that grow. Let's do some simple math together. The difference between buying a reliable, minimalist vehicle for $8,000 and financing a luxury car for $30,000 is exactly $22,000. If you take that $22,000 and invest it in broad market index funds, returning an average of 10% annually after 20 years, that single decision will be worth over $148,000. Meanwhile, that luxury car will be worth literally zero. Both vehicles will end up in the exact same junkyard. The only difference is the massive balance sitting in your brokerage account. So why do 90% of people still fall into this trap? It's the Diderot effect, an incredibly subtle psychological trap. When you buy a luxury car you can't truly afford, your brain automatically demands an equally expensive lifestyle to match, from premium detailing to luxury apparel. You end up using your short-term income to fund long-term depreciating assets, just to buy temporary validation from people you don't even like. Remember, cheap tech or a simple car is not a sacrifice. It is a financial weapon designed to trade a few years of vanity for an entire decade of compound growth. We both know, to achieve true freedom, we must make our money work for us. And that brings us to the next principle. Invest a minimum of $8,000 every single year, which is roughly $667 a month. If you consistently invest $8,000 a year into global ETFs for 25 years at a historical average return of 10%, you will accumulate nearly $588,000. Out of that amount, your actual out-of-pocket contribution is only $200,000, while the remaining $388,000 is pure compound interest doing the heavy lifting. Using the 4% withdrawal rule, this nest egg will generate roughly $23,500 of passive income per year. More than enough to live a secure, peaceful life in almost any country. Listen to the story of Ronald Reed, a humble gas station worker and janitor from Vermont. When he passed away at the age of 92, the entire world was shocked to discover he had accumulated an $8 million fortune. His secret wasn't a high salary. He simply took a small portion of his modest wages and invested it consistently into blue-chip stocks for decades. Below the $8,000 annual mark, the math is simply against you. If you only invest $5,000 a year, you'll end up with only about $367,000, generating a retirement income that is below the safety threshold. A difference of just $250 a month decides whether you spend your old age in absolute freedom or relying on government handouts. Yet, why do 90% of people fail to maintain this investing discipline? Because they are always looking for shortcuts. They don't have the patience to watch their money grow slowly over time. They want to get rich overnight. They want to double their money in a week, and the moment the market dips, they panic and pull everything out. They fail because they treat investing as a casino instead of a biological process that needs time to grow and bear fruit. This first investment baseline isn't about making you fabulously wealthy. It is the price you pay to buy certainty for your future self. And here is the secret that very few people talk about, especially high earners. If your monthly spending exceeds $8,000, you need at least $2.4 million in invested assets to retire. That is the 4% rule in reverse. Your annual spending is $96,000. Multiply that by 25, and you get exactly $2.4 million. Most people never do this math. They think about retirement in terms of replacing their current income, but your income is not what you need to replace. Your spending is. Look at today's remote workers and solopreneurs. They make great money from global markets. As their income rises, they silently upgrade their lifestyle. They rent a nicer apartment, eat at high-end restaurants, pay for luxury memberships. They cross that $8,000 a month spending threshold without even realizing it. And suddenly they have signed themselves up for a lifelong labor sentence, because to maintain that lifestyle, they now require a massive fortune that they haven't even begun to accumulate. Look at the tragedy of Antoine Walker, a legendary basketball player who made over $110 million during his career but went completely bankrupt just 2 years after retiring. Why? Because he let his fixed expenses balloon out of control, outstripping the ability of even a massive fortune to sustain it. So, why do 90% of high earners fall into this exact trap? Hedonic adaptation. Your brain has a built-in mechanism that automatically turns today's luxuries into tomorrow's basic necessities. Once you get used to the high life, stepping down feels like mental torture. They forget that every single dollar of fixed spending you add today is an invisible soldier you are forced to feed for the rest of your life. But wait, I want you to stop for a second right here, because this is where the old school advice gets it completely wrong, or at least where it has become obsolete in today's knowledge economy. There is an extreme branch of the financial freedom movement that preaches absolute deprivation, cutting back on every cup of coffee, cleaning your own house for 4 hours a week to save a few dollars. I call that a financial crime against your own potential. If you are too busy pinching pennies, you simply won't have the mental bandwidth to grow your income. Smart investors don't strangle their life. They look for spend leverage. Look at how Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk operate. They never waste their time on tasks that can be outsourced. They spend massive amounts of money to hire the best assistants and use the most advanced tech to optimize their time. Because they understand that the most valuable asset isn't cash. It is time and cognitive energy. If you spend an extra $1,000 a month to hire a virtual assistant or buy AI tools to automate your workflow, it is not for luxury. The goal is to free up 40 hours of high-value working time each month and use those hours to generate $5,000 in new income. That is not lifestyle inflation. That is reinvesting in the single greatest money printer on earth, yourself. Yet, why do 90% of people still fall into the trap of extreme frugality? Because they suffer from being penny-wise and pound-foolish. They will spend hours comparing prices to save $2, but then make exhausted, terrible investment decisions that cost them thousands. They burn all their willpower on low-value tasks, leaving absolutely zero creative energy for the big plays. Don't save money to make yourself small. Spend strategically to buy back your genius-level time. So, how do you upgrade your life without breaking your financial engine? I want you to use this final rule, the financial stress test. Before you make any major lifestyle upgrade, anything that permanently increases your monthly fixed costs, challenge yourself to save exactly $8,000 first from that exact price difference. For example, you want to move into a nicer apartment that costs an extra $500 a month. Before you sign that lease, stay in your current place. and consistently transfer that extra $500 into a separate account every month. If you can do that consistently for 16 months and accumulate that $8,000, you have proven two things. First, you can actually afford the new lifestyle without hurting your investment rate. Second, you have built a dedicated safety buffer specifically for that new expense. This is exactly how major tech corporations test software before launching it globally. They never release a new feature to all users at once. They run tests on a small group to see if the system crashes under pressure. Your financial life deserves the exact same engineering discipline. Yet, why do 90% of people skip this vital test? Impatience and instant gratification. They get stimulated by curated images on social media. They want the new apartment now, the new car now. They lie to themselves using future income that doesn't even exist yet. If you can't pass this test, the new lifestyle will eventually break your financial system. You get the answer before it costs you real money. 5 principles. 1 unifying number. $8,000 in cash to break the poverty premium. $8,000 vehicle limit to protect your compound growth. $8,000 invested per year to buy a certain future. $8,000 spending ceiling to avoid the illusion of freedom. And the $8,000 stress test to upgrade your life with intelligence. Financial freedom has never been about complex equations. It is about staying disciplined to a minimalist system that you swear to never violate. The information I just shared with you is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. If you are ready to stop trading your time for survival and start decoding the true mechanics of wealth and a powerful mindset, click the subscribe button right now. Consider this your official invitation to join the circle of sustainable prosperity.